Hey ho, poetry freaks, both young and antiques. It's me again, Steve Herbert, or Poet for Hire. My most respected critic, also known as SWMBO, or She Who Must Be Obeyed, advises me I should skip the long intro and just get right into the poem. With that in mind, here it is. Something a little different, a narrative poem which tells a story that my dad always swore was true. It's called The Coat-Tail Ghost. Enjoy. Come gather round, all you young uns, while I rest me weary bones. Come closer to the campfire and turn off them mobile phones. There's a tale I'd like to tell you, 'cause it won't mean much to most, about the night that I encountered a coat-tail tugging ghost. Back then, our phones stayed on the wall. We had no TV set, no dangling iPod gizmos, nor no flaming internet. Now, Fred, that's not the scary part. No use to look so tearful. A life without your Facebook friends ain't really something fearful. Now, me and Len and Tom were mates, like those famous musketeers. 'Twas all for one and one for all, through sunshine, rain, and tears. This day we're sitting, feeling bored, with not much else to do, when Tommy spins this frightful yarn about the ghost of Dan Carew. See, folks round there said Dan trapped kids and ground their bones for dinner. He was a strange one, that's for sure, a proper loony binner. Though he was dead and buried in that old graveyard on the hill, some people claimed his spirit roamed and preyed on children still. Oh, I was young and foolish then, and prone to silly boasts. My trap I opened up and cried, I'm not afraid of ghosts. Then Len and Tom, my two best friends, they hatched a cunning plot to make me eat my reckless words and put me on the spot. They dared me to confront the ghost at midnight in the church. A shiver of dread ran down my spine and my heart gave a bit of a lurch. But to Tommy and Len I spoke boldly, not showing a quiver of fear. I'll do it, I vowed. At 11 tonight, make sure that you meet me here. Well, late that night, as a storm brewed up, sane folk in their safe beds slept, while we three scamps through our windows slipped and down the dark road crept. Then an eerie moaning wind sprang up, and the rain came helter-skelter, as we paused for a bit at the graveyard fence, where the lich gate gave us shelter. Our torchlights played o'er the drunken stones, where the dead lay eternally sleeping, and the rain tumbled down in torrents, as if God himself was weeping. It's time, whispered Tom, and he thrust in my hand a hammer and a 6-inch nail. At the altar's foot you must mark the spot, so we know that you did not fail. With a slap on my back and a cheery good luck, the two settled down to wait, while I plunged into the gloomy dark to meet with my ghostly fate. You kids wouldn't know about terror, how it melts all your bones to a mush, the trembling hands and the chattering teeth, stark fear that comes with a rush. But I tell you, that night I felt terror, as sure as I'm talking to you, for I knew in the dark church lay waiting the ghost of the mad Dan Carew. For a moment I thought he had found me, and I gave out a sort of a howl. With a whoosh and a flash it flew past me. 'Twas just a harmless old owl. The old door creaked noisily open. I came back to my senses again. I took a few steps toward the altar. At least I was out of that rain. Then I knelt at the front by the prayer rail where thousands had pleaded their plight. But I doubt that their prayers were as urgent as the one that I muttered that night. The torch I laid down as I hammered cast shadows of fear round the room, and I knew as I stood to start fleeing that I'd hammered the way to my doom. For a great ghastly hand from the darkness gave my coat-tails a bit of a tweak. Though I struggled and fought, he held tighter, till I let out an almighty shriek. I could smell Dan Carew at my shoulder. I could feel his foul breath at my throat, and I couldn't abide to be eaten, so I tore loose his grip on my coat. Home I streaked, my raincoat in tatters, with Lenny and Tom at my heels, and I told how the ghost had clung to me, how he'd planned I'd be one of his meals. In the cold light of day, we went back there, just Lenny and Tommy and me. We checked out the nail that I'd driven, and the answer was quite plain to see. Now the God-fearing folk of that county will still give a bit of a roar when they tell of the young fool at midnight who nailed his own coat to the floor. Well done for making it all the way to the end. Join me again next week where I'll be making a venture into some serious free verse.